Hey, so good to be with you. You can find more information at Jay Fuller Interviews on Instagram and Twitter. Joined now by one of the greats of Vermont athletics, Taylor Coppenrath. Taylor, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, with this COVID-19 quarantine, how are you surviving?
A father of three, so the oldest is five, and then a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So things are busy, and my wife's going to nursing school, and that's moved online, and I'm trying to create lessons for my students, as a teacher. So um, sometimes hectic, but it's nice to be home with the family, definitely, and they can be a lot at times, but you never get that time back. So
Oh, for sure. Now, talk a little bit about where you grew up in West Barnett. What was your family like? How many siblings did you have, and what memories do you have of being a kid?
so I have two brothers, an older brother and a younger brother. Um, we grew up in the same house, excuse me, that my father grew up and spent some time living in. So he went to the academy, St. Johnsbury Academy, and then all three of us, the boys followed. Um, Pretty typical. We got to get involved in a lot of sports. Growing up in a small town, we had friends that were, a wide age group. So, my older brother's 3 years older than me, and I'm about 3 years older than my younger brother. We had friends that were in between those years, a little bit older than my older brother. So, I remember getting together and we play soccer next door. My neighbor was an older woman and very patient, and we'd tear up her lawn, but she had one of the best lawns ever for playing football and soccer. And so we're playing against all different ages. And I had two really good friends that lived in West Barnet that we played soccer together, basketball together, baseball. And then when we got to the academy, we did track and field. Um, so it was really good. I mean, it was amazing. We lived really close to a lake, so we'd be able to do that. We'd bike all over, hiking. I'd say my parents were just, you know, go out and have fun. We'll make sure you're back by this time, check in. So it was pretty free and flexible, but it was a lot of fun. So,
Yeah, we call those the good old days, right? So,
yeah.
Taylor, for you, you had a brother that played at Maine basketball. If you could have played another sport, what would you have chosen? And did your parents push basketball, or why did you seem to become a basketball family?
Yeah, so my younger brother played basketball at USM, University of Southern Maine, and he was actually inducted into the Hall of Fame and had played, 3 seasons with them and led them in, I think, 3-point field goal percentage, and he was 6'5", so um, I don't know what other sport I would play. I definitely played soccer, and I was a goalie, but I was kind of put there when I was younger, and they were like, "Oh, you're really good at it." I don't know if it was like a math thing, with the angles and my length. I could kind of fall over and touch the goal posts. I didn't have to jump to touch the top of the goal post, So, um, but that was probably the other sport that I was fairly good at. Maybe had I started football and got into it a little bit more, people said I had really good hands, so they saw me as like a tight end or a wide receiver or something. Could have been like Gronk maybe. But
Yeah. Hey, when did you get your growth spurt, or did it just gradually grow through your adolescent years?
it seemed to be pretty steady and pretty even. I definitely got a little awkward, I think maybe from like middle school to freshman year, but I never felt like super uncoordinated. Um, so I think it was pretty steady, throughout my years. My younger brother actually started off quite short and then had a big one throughout high school. So.
Now, talk a little bit. You went to St. Johnsbury Academy. You were a redshirt at UVM. You get to play in the NBA summer leagues, and then you ended up playing several years overseas. What was that like, leaving St. Johnsbury and being a redshirt for UVM?
Well, first, when I was playing at St. J, I wasn't sure if I, would have an opportunity to play in college. Obviously, growing up, I wanted to play high school and, chose to go to St. Johnsbury because we had school choice. And I was going from a small town, I think our basketball team had like 7 or 8 people. And then to, my graduating class was like 200 from St. J, and graduating from Barnet was maybe like 25. So, it was a pretty big change. And then I think it was good. St. Mike's was interested, and then UVM offered me a scholarship, and they said would redshirt you because I think at the time they had 5 post players on the team. So, they said, I don't know how much playing time you'll get. So what we'll do is, we'll just plan on you sitting out the year, redshirt, and then, you'll come back in for the next season, because they were going to graduate, I think, at least 2 post players. So
Now, did you grow up?
I think that recruited that year. So
Okay. Did you grow up watching UVM basketball?
No, not really. I think maybe just because, living on the other side of the state, we didn't travel over to Burlington a ton, other than, AAU tournaments. We were playing basketball during the winter when they were playing. We just never really got over and followed UVM much. We'd watch college sports on TV, a little bit of the NBA, but that was mostly it. We were pretty busy and involved in everyday activities kind of going on, that I never really knew much about the team until they started recruiting me, and Antonio started going there.
Right.
So.
Right. That guy could shoot the ball.
He was incredible and super athletic. So
let's fast forward a little bit. You played, I think it was summer league with the Boston Celtics. What was that experience like for you?
It was good. It was challenging because, I was kind of going into the draft hoping maybe that they would kind of pick me up. I thought I, tried out pretty well for them, and they had told me, like, if they had another pick, that year, maybe I would have gotten drafted. But it was a lot of fun. I was playing with, I think they had signed like Kendrick Perkins, and so he was kind of just kind of new to them and still pretty young, I think. So they had him on the summer league, and Al Jefferson, before he started to become, he was good, but before he became an all-star kind of caliber player. They had Delonte West, and I think it was Gomes, right? I think from Providence that they had drafted, and so it was good. It was a lot of fun. Vegas was kind of wild. I've never been out there. Super hot and nightlife, but didn't really go out a ton because just the draft camp or the summer league. So
sure.
But they definitely said that we competed kind of maybe more than Al Jefferson and Perkins, probably because they already knew that they had guaranteed, when you're fighting for that money or that contract, then you're going to probably seem to outwork them and out rebound them. And but it was definitely a lot of fun. I was hoping that maybe I could get onto their team and be local. From a business side of it, who knows? You would have had half of Vermont probably purchasing season tickets.
Sure. Now, for you, looking back, what is something that you wish you would have prepared for better, and what is something that you wish you would have known going into that whole process?
Yeah, I probably would have started, preparing a little bit more, maybe like into the junior year. I wasn't really sure if I had a chance until, sometimes they kind of came and started watching my senior year. But by that time, maybe trying to become a little more athletic and maybe, lifting a little bit more, getting a little stronger. Maybe just trying to improve those things and, shooting maybe a little bit more, just a little bit more time. I spent a lot of time working out and doing that stuff. I went out to Cleveland and worked out with Grover there, who's Michael Jordan's trainer at his facility. But I think had I started maybe a little bit sooner and maintained it, maybe. It's also very challenging. I think it's, you have to really know people and kind of get in good and kind of stand out a little bit and give them something that they're looking for. I think it was a challenging year as well because they had a lot of post players, fours, 3, 4, and 5, going out during that time. So I think the redshirt year helped me, at UVM, but it also probably made me, go out for the draft at a very challenging time.
Now, being a teacher, an educator, a coach, when you face or teach young players, how important is it to tell them to be confident in themselves, but still to be hungry? And when did that come into place for you, where you actually realized, man, I am good, but you didn't get too cocky?
Yeah, I don't cocky never really seemed to fit in, because there was always somebody that kind of made me realize that there's always more to keep working on. I play against higher competition, throughout my high school, throughout, we'd play pickup with, some guys around the area, and just always realizing that, there's a lot more to keep pushing for. When you play AAU outside of Vermont, we played against teams from Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire that were just experiencing more basketball and at a higher level. And then, we even traveled out, even down south, and, just the caliber was so much more that it always kind of put it in perspective. Actually, at a young age, we went down when I was 11 years old to the 11 and under, and we got crushed, and there were people dunking and, like 6 foot. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was super passionate about it. So I kept working hard because I enjoyed playing. But I knew there's no time to waste on being cocky. You just got to take it to as far as you're willing to put in, and then be satisfied, if you're ready to give it up, or when that door closes or that window stops, or.
That's good advice. So you ended up playing overseas.
But definitely confidence, though, because even in the classroom, teaching math, which is not a subject that a lot of people have confidence in.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing to build off of, and it's hard. You got to put that time in, and then you got to just see the results, and it takes time. But just got to trust in the work that you're putting in.
Oh, for sure. You ended up playing overseas. How many years did you play professionally?
I played 10.
And I heard a rumor or a story, please bring light to this. The Vermont Frost Thieves, I loved. I thought it was great for Vermont. But I heard that you scrimmaged with some of those players and you dropped like 40 points in that scrimmage. Is that accurate?
I don't remember how many points, but it was definitely a good amount. And, I definitely scrimmaged with them. And I think it was a couple of guys. I think maybe even Jermaine maybe had just kind of played a little bit, because I was hoping that they'd maybe hang around. So, later on after I retired, if I wanted to go into coaching or / kind of like playing a little bit with them, that would be an opportunity, but doesn't look like that's the case now.
No, but can you just talk about the levels of basketball? I know sometimes I'll get with my buddies, we'll be watching an NBA game and say, that guy's a scrub. But you look from the Frost Thieves that won back-to-back championships in the ABA to the level you were playing at overseas to the NBA. Can you just talk about the development and the athleticism that's around this country, or this world.
Yeah, I mean, it never ceases to amaze me, the amount of talent and, just sometimes even just shooting, there's really some athletic guys out there, but just the quickness and the level that they can shoot at and get shots off, is quite remarkable. And to be honest, you could be a Division III player, Division II, one in college, and you could. There's not much level difference. It's just kind of you get luck of the draw. You're on a good team. You have a good coaching staff. All those things kind of fall in place, and you see a lot of people transferring and trying to get better places to play, better positions, but it's hard to do that. It's almost like you try to find that good fit. When they're recruiting you, you need to be recruiting them. You need to be aware of what are they telling me, what are other players saying about the school, and that's just on the college level. But I'd say the ABA, very athletic and good players. In Europe, there's a wide range. They start their kids, you go to school basically kind of for basketball, and then you take classes. So a lot of my teammates didn't even graduate from a typical high school. They went to a club, and then they started playing with that club, and then they got a little bit more experience, and then they got maybe signed out to another club, and kind of bumped around, but then they had to earn their kind of degrees or education later on. So a lot of those players were taking classes while they were playing. And then the NBA is, just size wise and athleticism, muscle, it's the real deal. I mean, and you see, I played a bunch against some of those guys when they were younger in Europe, and then they transitioned over to the NBA. So there were definitely a lot of players that I played against. One that was probably a while back, but Luis Scola I played against when I was in Greece, and he had a really good career, and a few others. But I don't like to name drop, but there's definitely some good players out there, a lot of talent, and so there's a lot of different levels in Europe. So you can kind of move up or down, which is kind of an interesting idea. It would be nice if they could kind of do that here, or at least make the NBA kind of like the MLB, or where you have these farm teams and you're still earning a little bit of money. You're playing. I know they kind of have that a little bit, but the NBDL, but
not the same. Hey, so we're going to talk about the game that everybody talks about. Number 13 UVM shocks number 4 Syracuse. Tommy Brennan, I love the guy. He always says, "My boy." How did he get you guys prepared for that game? And Jermaine Mopagilo had 20 points. I've heard you say before that you knew he was capable of scoring. Just talk about you guys preparing for Syracuse in that first round game of the tournament.
Well, when we found out, we were pretty excited. I mean, we knew that they played zone. We had quite a good shooting team, from outside. And I think we knew that if we could keep that defensive intensity, we knew we weren't going to outscore them. But going in, we definitely had a pretty good, I think, points against us average so far. And so we knew it would be key, to keep Warwick and McNamara, kind of either having a bad game or, let them score and try to limit all the other players. But their zone is super athletic and, can cover a lot of ground, so that they play it really, really quite well. And, so going in, we just wanted to keep it pretty close, and just play our game, focus on ourselves. We had been there before, we knew what it takes to play against those caliber teams. And then Jermaine, throughout our whole career and every season we had guys that stepped up, Dave Hayne would make big shots, get big plays. Martin Clemesh, Martine's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
animal. We had just guys that did things at moments that we needed them to. And then, for all of a sudden Jermaine to come out and just start scoring like unconsciously, he always could shoot, he had time, he has a good looking shot, but I think again, it's like, those guys, if they don't have that confidence, they're only going to get a few shots a game, or they knew that playing with us, their shots are limited, but they'd always make them, like they shoot really high percentage. So like you give him an opportunity to take that many shots, he's gonna make them. Now to that level, that was unexpected, but could he put up 16 or 18? Probably, you know what I mean? Like without a doubt. And then his defense, he got a lot of stops and sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Family. It's good. It's good. Hey, so I have a couple more questions and I'll let you go. But Coach Brennan, I heard that he was more of not a cheerleader, but Coach Eagle would do a lot of the X's and O's, and Coach Brennan would work the refs in the crowd. For you personally, what does Coach mean to you?
Well, when he came to visit, and came into the house, he just, when he told you something, he was either a really good salesman or you believed what he was selling. And I think that he was honest, he would tell you, what you needed to hear, but he also believed in it. He believed in you when he was telling you that, you can do some really good things. And, talk about a real great motivational speaker. And some people, I think, mistake it for a cheerleader because he does a lot of that kind of like reacting and acting and kind of like in your face a little bit. But, he knew the game, he played the game. But I think, they each had a role where Coach Eagle would spend more time kind of scouting those other teams and kind of giving us more detail and, we're going to run this right now, or, this is something that we need to look for. But both of them together worked really well. And, I think it gave him an opportunity to be more himself, like I think Coach Brennan liked being animated and up and walking the sidelines and interacting with the refs. And, Coach Eagle was more, I'm just going to stick to the X's and O's and kind of run that role. But they both could do a little bit of each. I definitely, Eagle wasn't as outgoing, I wouldn't say, as Coach Brennan is. But he meant a lot. I mean, he taught us life lessons, throughout our career, and he knew the game, but that wasn't an aspect that he needed to spend kind of his whole energy on. So
well, that makes a good staff as well, having that chemistry. And I'm just going to get you out on this, Taylor. Thanks so much for jumping on. But you had your number retired. You've done some coaching. What does life look like now as a dad, as a coach, as someone that relives those glory days?
So as a dad, it's kind of like this. They're jumping around on the couch. And, my career went pretty much, I feel like there's nothing left for them to do, from the school's standpoint, because, we got the court named after Coach. We got our jerseys retired. We're all in the Hall of Fame together. And if you had told me way back when I was younger, growing up in Barnet, I would have been like, I don't know. I feel like you're pulling my chain here a little bit, that all these things are going to happen. But yeah, it's definitely a game changer, but, trying to be active with the kids and see if anybody gets interested in basketball and, coaching, just trying to give them an opportunity. I just say it all the time that between my parents, the coaches, my teachers, when they're all saying the same thing, it's like, you're better off just listening. I was always a little bit hard-headed at times, but, once I realized that, good things come if you just listen and take some of that advice. I try to get to my students, I'm like, I give you this advice, whether or not I'm your teacher or, or some guy that's just on the, down the road, or something, like your neighbor, like this is just good advice to hear and to try to improve, all around. And then coaching, just giving them an opportunity because, there's not always I feel like there's never an opportunity out there, but clearly there is, because there's a lot of people that have kind of followed my footsteps, and there are people before me that from Vermont that played basketball and continued that career. So.
Hey, Taylor, thanks so much. Thanks so much. We wish you all the best, and we'll keep in contact.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, man. And again, Taylor Coppenrath, one of the greats for Vermont sports. We just enjoy him so much, and special thanks for you guys tuning in. Leave us a message, check in on Instagram, Twitter. Let us know what you think, and we'll be back soon. All right, everybody. Taylor Coppenrath. He certainly was probably the best basketball player ever to come out of the state of Vermont. I'd probably say John LeClaire is the best Vermont-born athlete, just as far as where he made it. But those two are some of the best, and special thanks for their time with us. And you can see Taylor now, instead of coaching on the court, he's coaching in the living room. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Take care.